Welcome to the Forum for the Marginalised. This is part 2 of having a candid and a very frank discussion with Dr. Oscar Molaba. But you know, I think what I picked up from our last conversation with him was that at the core of what he does, there's a human element. And not all of us in business truly understands that. Because I think we get to a point where we become so big-headed. And because of what sometimes some of us become lucky, that God has decided to bestow this upon you for you to be able to succeed and create wealth, you tend to forget where you come from. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Please click, please share, please like. Today's episode is one of those where I really think that you'll be able to take something home, family. Dr. Oscar is here. Remember when I said that it's just one of those individuals that I think that are a rare gem in business. And sometimes we as podcasters, we tend to be able to go for people that we think that they know it all just by virtue of being famous, but yeah. There are those that are there without ask. As I had said previously, family, that he is the MD of Batanidza Technologies. The last time when I had a discussion with you, Dr. Oscar, welcome once again.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, Cindy.
Yeah, no, I like these preludes as one.
Ah, yeah, perfect. I can't add anything to it.
I like them because they resonate so well.
Yeah.
With me, I think at the deeper core, as you've seen this. But the last time we spoke in our previous discussion culminating to this episode, we spoke about what was the mandate of
Yeah.
the way my surname.
Yeah.
So I want you to say your company.
Sure.
In a manner in which it resonates with you.
Yeah. It's Batanidza Technologies. Batanidza Technologies. Yeah. In actual fact, it's a Shona name for Connect, whereby when we registered our company, we were meant to go by the name of Connect.com, right? And then because of a finger error, then we became Connect.com without the C. And a lot of people then generally would mistake us for Connect.com in any case. And they would send communication to Connect.com or they would refer to us as Connect.com. But also deeper than that, we went by a tagline that said Connect the Unconnected. Although we've changed that, we haven't lost the true sense of that. And I'm sure we'll get into that.
So yes, remember the last time when we had a discussion, we spoke about the 5 misconceptions of what makes up an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And it was such a valid discussion because I think it sort of set the platform for this particular one.
Yes.
When we had a discussion before we had this podcast, the previous one and this one, I asked you what was the mandate of your company.
Yes.
And you had indicated that, and especially the key element that I got from your response was that your organization that you lead assess other organizations to manage their reputational damage?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
One, by ensuring that their products and services are ready to be consumed.
Yes.
Right.
100%.
And you had also said that within that aspect, customer experience comes to the fore.
Yes.
Because that's the end of the journey.
It is.
And it is that journey that is either going to be making your client's business to work or not.
Yes.
So you are playing, when we're humanizing what you do, a human aspect of what you're doing, but more in an IT space.
Yes.
But it talks to what we spoke about from the beginning.
Yes.
When you said you were scribing
Yeah.
what you want to do.
Yeah.
And you chose a niche market.
Yep.
Why?
I guess the why, at a high level is the easy part. I was studying in 2000, and I think a lot of us know about, .com and how IT in essence took off, and I gravitated towards it. But beyond that, to then, delve deeper in the part about the customer experience and sort of like being a conduit between the client and the customer. I've never actually heard anyone put it like that from a humanness perspective, but I guess as you unpacked on it, it landed, right? Because what we do in essence is mimic the human person or the consumer who's going to consume the solution, the product, the service. We have to mimic how they're going to interact with the product, the service, or the solution in order to get the best out of it and be able to actually put out the best version of it in the market to be consumed by those people. So I guess if you think about it, the multi-layers of it is, it was a timing thing that triggered the interest, and over time it developed in a likeness for being a software tester. That's what we refer to it as. And from being a software tester is understanding that when you test a product, a service, or a solution, you are testing against industry standards. You are testing against business requirements, specified by the client. You are testing for a well-rounded customer experience, for purposes of the customer experiencing that solution at the best point of it as possible.
So let's unpack this a bit.
Yeah.
Because I think if we can be able to bring it home for somebody to actually understand what we are talking about, at times where you talk technology, you talk IT, certain things go above.
Get lost in translation. I know.
and therefore, for one to be able to understand at the heart of what you do, can you sort of give us an example of something very practical?
Yes.
That everybody that is watching there, regardless of their LSM, the living standard measurements, can be able to identify with.
Yeah. I can do a bit, I can do two better.
Sure.
Let's talk telecommunications, right? As an industry. You get a SIM card, and in the SIM card you are meant to then connect with others, right? Whether it be through voice call, through data, or messages, as text we would have it. Now, it's evolved over time, where it's not only about that anymore, but it's more about you consuming data and using it on applications like your social media or your banking app. And therein lies what we do. If you then, for example, still under telecommunications, you buy a voucher to recharge for a certain amount, like 29 rand. I'm not giving away my age, by the way, but 29 rand or 55 rand or 110 rands, it's changed. But when you buy it onto your SIM card, it needs to load the right amount because that's what you bought. And when you use it at every touch point, there are system mechanisms in the background that consume it, right? So we would test against those things, and we would test, when you make a call for such a period, is it actually, consuming the right amount until you exhaust what you bought? As a simple thing.
So,
yeah.
In this one, if I would be able to sort of put it in layman terms,
Yes.
you're the one that makes sure you totally airtime right.
Not all the time.
No. So you're the one that makes sure that when I send something and it reflects that 29 rand, there are steps that have to be taken before I can be able to realize the experience of exactly what I have bought.
One of the ones, yes.
One of the ones.
One of the ones.
One of the ones.
I mean, I can even, unpack that just a little bit further.
Yes.
If you think about it, a lot of people in recent times, they'll tell you how much, I've left my phone just lying there, but I come back to more airtime, to more data, or whatever being consumed. And then when you dig deeper, you find that they've subscribed to things that in the background are happening to consume that. It's not that, your network provider is doing that, And a lot of people might hear this and think, no ways, but that's the truth. You know what I mean? But one of the ones, yes. And then another example is, when you go... Now I'm scared to even make this example because it's about banking. It's about...
Can we? You know how it happens where you people would compare the charges, the cost of one thing with another.
Yes.
And some would say, sure.
Yeah.
And the other one is more expensive than the other one. But forgetting how many transactions sometimes you do, that it would actually equate to something. But this one, because it's compounded.
Yeah. I'm gonna segue away from banking deliberately because why does everything have to do with money today?
Yes.
But in the insurance sector, for example, we had one client where they wanted to do an online store. And with the online store, obviously they want to go live with a set of products in subcategories like your tourism, your life experiences, your equipment like computers and whatnot. And they were not going live, but because of how they approach things. So a classic example around that particular project of launching your online store would be a user needs to have a profile, right? Log in, log out. That's like your login credentials. So we would need to test that when you then register your profile and you have a login credential, it works all the time based on what you've set it to be in terms of either your cell phone number, as we've come to be familiar with, or your email address versus your password, that there's a match. And beyond that, when you enter your ID number, that in that field it's only taking numeric numbers and not letters, unless it's a passport where you see a mix of the two, right? We had to test against that. And even in some instances for certain clients, a lot of people don't know that our IDs in South Africa actually, at a certain point, I can't remember what numeric digit it is, but based on what that number is, whether it's an O and 8, just as a poor example, then you are either male or female, and therefore it would guard against those things. And even further to that, when you then select the product, that product is the one that goes to your basket, and not a different product. That when you then pay for that product, there goes money again, by the way. When you pay for that product, you are purchasing it at the right amount, So in layman's terms, if you think about it, what do we do when we test for things that people generally consume? We test whether, at the right point when you interact with the system, it's behaving the way that it's meant to behave, based on, like again, I said, industry standards, business requirements, or even from a custom experience perspective. You don't want a field where it says name, but you are entering a number. Do we have people that go by a number? No. Or it says ID number, you are entering your name. We don't have people whose ID numbers or passport numbers are names. So we test against the robustness of the solution to make sure that it behaves in the right manner and performs in the right manner. And also, it can take at any given point in time, which is what we call load testing. It's self-explanatory. The load of people using it at the same time can absorb a certain amount as per the requirements that would be set for the solution. So it's quite vast, but to simplify it, those are the examples that I can think of.
Yeah, look, some things can be you can be able to consume certain information.
Yeah.
It's got its own humanistic part of it, but it's still technical.
Yes.
So we are getting there.
Got you.
We are getting there. But I think for the fact that I sort of unpacked it a little bit from the beginning, I sort of had an understanding of what we're referring to, and I'm gravitating towards exactly that custom experience that we're talking about.
Yeah.
This sounds like it's a niche market business.
Yes.
And in a niche market business, when we enter a business space, I've always said, please don't kill me.
Okay. That's a very strong disclaimer.
When we, Tina, as Black and Africans or South Africans get into business, the problem solving part, we tend to not sort of really look at it, and I don't mean to generalize.
Understood.
Not a lot of Black businesses
Yeah.
are into that space.
Yeah.
Because we tend to sort of look at events and look at those type of nice to haves.
Yeah.
But in solving a problem, that is where I think systematically we're really not taught to be thinking of that way.
Yeah.
So you entering into that space.
Yeah.
How did you identify the gap?
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, the conducive operational environment of where you have entered into as a Black man.
Yeah.
How are you finding it?
Yeah. So there you are again. Put me on the spot, and I'm gonna pull the same ace, in my sleeve. So I'm gonna humanize an example from the previous question quickly. There's Gogo Mahlangu that stays in Umtata, right? That needs to go withdraw money. She needs to be able to find comfort that what we did in testing for the system that is behind the ATM, because it's a system. When she takes a card, slots it in there, enters her PIN, that the PIN recognition based on the chip in the card is the right one, and it works based on her actual PIN, right? And when she then clicks, what is the service, cash withdrawal, that it's gonna offer her an opportunity to enter an amount that she would like to withdraw. And when she withdraws that amount, that exact amount comes from the ATM. And if she would opt to then either view on her slip or on the system, which is the ATM, what her balance is, the balance, as she knew before she went to withdraw, matches with the amount that has been subtracted by her withdrawing. I think that right?
Now, now
I can be slow sometimes, but I catch up quite quickly.
Eventually it got through. I got you completely.
It did.
Family, we got him finally.
Now back to your questions that I was trying my best to sort of like maybe escape, right? I'll start with the last one. Frank, honest answer. It's a white, male-dominated sector or industry, this IT world of ours. We exist not really to offer parity for that, but as you've come to know about me, I exist to create employment for our people. That then answers the first one, doesn't it? Why do I do what I do, and how does it link back to that? It's more about creating job opportunities for our people to then enter this market. How then did I enter the market? Because I was a consultant just like that. How, do I then get to go against the grain in this market being a black man? It's because I entered the market and I felt like just a number, where as consultants you are then commissioned to go and do that project and that project and that other project and that other one. That is simply because the people that are running the show are looking at how productive you can be, are looking at how much money you can make for them. It's the truth, the cold hard truth. And in the same breath, unfortunately, linking back to the second part, you are not as well compensated as your counterparts, right? White counterparts. For different other reasons. But also sometimes you think about it and you think, could it be true? Sometimes it's not, because you dig deeper. We come from X backgrounds, they come from Y backgrounds. You might be paid the same, but because of those backgrounds, and you've got more people to support, whereas he or she has got less people to support, then it seems as if you're paid lesser than them. Can't you know your money is going a longer way than their money, So there could be a truth on either side of the fence, but at the same time, more often than not, we find that there is an imbalance. One of the barriers that we talk about to enter such a market or a sector are harder for us as black people than our white counterparts. Sometimes it's because they had a computer from a certain age, whereas you got to be exposed to a computer whether you're in high school or tertiary. So you're also playing catch up at the same time, right? So there are a lot of facets to it. But if you ask me on my personal journey, can I match up to most of my counterparts? Without a doubt. Can our team match up? Look, my team. If you haven't met them, you need to, because I think they are currently the best thing that's ever happened to me and where I am at the moment in those transitions of making sure that I do what is expected of me, what I need to do to keep the ship moving forward. I sleep very well at night knowing that my team is on guard. So I hope I answered it and I balanced it quite well.
I'm gravitating towards exactly in terms of getting a bit deeper on that, because there might be factors that you just alluded to that are very crucial. in being able to create a conducive and enabling environment for the others, but not the others.
Yes.
And you highlighted key fundamentals within that.
Yes.
But you enter the space,
Yeah.
nevertheless,
Yes.
and there are barriers.
Yes.
So you've gone over the hurdle
Yeah.
of the fact that you have to start,
Yes.
because it's a niche market business.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's regulatory requirements, there's a lot that you have to go through,
Yes.
and and those are just barriers
Yeah.
for Usindi coming from Soweto,
Yeah.
needing capital to start that business and stuff like that. To Usindi making it now,
Yeah.
and encounter barriers.
Yeah.
The reason why we are not 10,000, 20,000, 40,000, 100,000 companies in that space,
Yeah.
it is because there is this barrier.
Yes. Yeah.
So I wanted to get to exactly that.
Okay. Yeah.
Because for you to have moved when we engaged previously,
Yeah.
from a small business
Yeah.
to a QSC,
Yeah.
it must mean something.
Yes.
That means you've walked the journey,
Yeah.
and in your journey you encountered various developments,
Yes.
and it is that I'm interested.
Okay. So let's talk about the one that you brought to light, which is capital, right? If you're not prepared to bootstrap, then you're in trouble. And what do I mean by that? One, to just start, with capital, you need to be able to think to yourself, you're employing people before you do the job, before you get paid. And sometimes, are you going to get paid the moment you issue an invoice? No. Are you going to get paid the next day? No. Sometimes it's gotten better over the years, but think about it maybe all those years back, where our ESDs, your enterprise and supplier development programs, was not even a thing. There was no incentive for your client to pay you within 7 days, 14 days, or 30 days, and they would stretch it out. And they would stretch it out for things that benefit them, because the more you hold on to money, the more interest it gains, right? What's the point of paying someone sooner than you need to? You know what I mean? So if you think about it from that perspective, a little story about that is when we started, we were not paid for, I think, 5 months.
Sure.
And in that 5 months, we had to keep the lights on for employee number 1. But also sometimes, employee number 1 or 2 or 3 needs maybe to understand why you're doing what you're doing and how far you're going to go, right? We had agreed on paying them X, but we could only pay them Y, because the deficit in between was the fact that I was sharing my salary with them. Therefore, you can call it moonlighting, but you needed to bootstrap the company. I had no business jumping out of my then job and focus on the business when the first opportunity that we got was not per my technical expertise. It was per someone else's technical expertise. So they jumped, and 5 months down the line, when we got paid, it was then a case of we need to catch them up going backwards. I need to, if there's enough, sometimes there isn't, catch up also my deficit of having paid over a portion of my salary to them, right? So capital and bootstrapping are all in one. I'm even bootstrapping now because of what I said in the first segment, that we've been launched back to the beginning. Bootstrapping with what? My profits. What else can I bootstrap with? And even then, when you get certain clients that take a certain amount of time to pay you, even in agreement you've agreed that they would pay you within a set period of time, what do? You keep the profits in the company, not extract them, because like I said, I'd like to drive a Porsche. I forgot about that when I understood what is at risk, what is at, another barrier that I can talk about is the technical expertise part, right? Am I an expert in what I do? No, I'm not. But I know more than any other person that's in the same sector, having started a business, or at least enough to compete with them. Obviously, I'm not really talking about the white counterparts. Quite often, the white counterparts get a leg up as opposed to us. That's one of the other barriers. How do they get a leg up? Because, like we agreed, it's a white male-dominated industry. I don't want to harp on it too much, but it is.
It is what it is.
You know what I mean? And obviously, because naturally, and also the irony of it, some of them feel like they are the marginalized. And they will look at freaky. I hope freaky is not one of the 49 that went, but
so the one the one that had a stomach. So I must have been freaky. I spoke about him when we had a segment with my co-host because he's so that one. You're not alone.
Yeah.
That's one. The giver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And funny enough, there's another one. I think Clean House or Clean Hands. The one that left the 5-bedroom house and the mother. Yeah. That one, in actual fact, I found out this morning that they're in the IT industry, by the way.
Oh.
Interesting. So we've lost a fellow soldier in the IT sector. But I mean, I guess in essence, what I'm trying to say with that part is that they naturally gravitate towards their own and give their own opportunities that could be shared with those that deserve them on merit. Not because of mainly the color of my skin, but also with the color of my skin, there's the triple B codes that also, come to my favor, come to my rescue, because quite often the big, large-scale clients that we've done, it's been about that. But if you go and you tap them on the shoulder and off the bat and ask them, did these guys, meet the standards? They will tell you we did. Did they excel on the floor? We did. We held our own. Therefore comes in the part about the merit part, you see? And also the other part, which is what I touched on previously, how long have you become familiar with the IT world? It takes us time because my parents, did they have enough to buy me a computer when I was 4 like the others? Or when I was 3 or when I was 10? No. That's a barrier in its own true sense, And even then, sometimes they manage to buy you that, or the school manages to get that and set up a computer lab. Then unfortunately our fellow brothers, they break in, they steal them. They forget that in doing that for a quick fix of whatever, or in exchange for money, they're stealing my future, or Tabo's future, or, Dipuo's future. You know what I mean? So there are so many different barriers, but at the core of them are those capital. You don't start just because you think tomorrow you'll get paid and then you'll be a millionaire. No, forget about that.
Let's look at transformation in the IT industry.
Yeah.
Do you feel that entrepreneurs such as you would be able to play a transformative role?
Yeah.
Because I think it's up to you now, because you're into that space, to sort of gravitate. I'm preempting.
I got you. Yeah.
Gravitate towards turning the face of this industry.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you think that there's a way of doing it?
Yeah.
For our scene to start now appreciating the space that has got so many barriers?
Yeah. I think so, I think it starts with us that are in the trenches, that are day to day advocating for people like us to be seen, to be heard, to be considered, and to be considered based on merit, like I said, do I deserve to be there? That's generally what the people that are making a decision for our organization to come in and do work need to consider. And therefore, what do I think could be an answer from my own, lens? I think if we could consider to collaborate more, therein we will achieve more. It goes without saying, because if I see, Patrick, who's a fellow black entrepreneur in the space, only see him as a competitor, that's why I think we get it wrong.
Ne?
Why can't he be an opportunity to collaborate, an opportunity to say, let's share thoughts, in certain instances, let's share clients. Think about what I said in the first segment around partnership, then we get in the ring with Patrick or Dineo, whoever. We get in the ring, we deliver a project, a second project, a third project. Soon enough, you have not a consortium of companies, but an opportunity to be a bigger company that actually tries to get more work on a larger scale. And therefore, that phenomenon of, is it good to have 0 of 100 than 1 out of 10? Makes more sense at that point, right? So I think, yes, let's try and see if we can collaborate more. And because it will help us achieve more and actually start to tick the check boxes of getting more and more of our people into this industry and doing more and better work. I mean, with us, just as a sort of like as a takeaway or take-home point on this part, the stat that I gave in the other segment of having over the years created, it's 14 years, more than 100 jobs, 80% of them being unemployed. Who do you think was unemployed from a demographic point of view? It was mainly our people, black people, that we employed. And they turn their lives around and they come back, like I was saying, look, I've got a car, look, I'm building, look, my child is back in a private school or is going to a private school for the first time.
So, you are in the space. And you're not only into this space for profit making. You're in this space to make a change.
Yeah.
And what you've just alluded to now, for the life of me, since I think in my existence, let me not give away my age.
Okay.
Is that most gatherings or associations that are formed in industries, when it comes to us, are the ones that fail.
Yes.
And the associations that are put together by other races,
Yeah.
in doing exactly what you're talking about,
Yeah.
they thrive.
Yeah. The key in that is the unity part, right? They present a more united front than we do. I mean, in certain instances, in our cases, in those professional organizations, there's a high level of familiarity or communality, right? I know when I need to do this, I call Jabu, and I only call Jabu. Whether Oscar can do it better than Jabu or not is never considered, because me and Jabu know what we end up doing at the end or on the flip side of it, right? And even I, as a client, sometimes cycle back to only calling Jabu for reasons that we quite often have become familiar with. You ask me, and this is where maybe I personalize it, whether I burn bridges or not, it's okay. For me, I've always been about principle. And fundamentally, I don't do the envelope thing. I don't believe in it, I just believe in, do I deserve to be there? Can I make a change? And what will be my impact, when I leave that environment? Because things start and end. I believe in that so much so that I've had opportunities to have a business be different, to to have a business grow quite phenomenally, and I've declined it because there was a nudge, there was a what's in it for me, and I'm not afraid to tell a person in their eyes that I don't do that, and I walk away, right? It will take time for me to build to the right level. I'm conscious of it. I'm afraid I'm in it, and I'm willing to go that way. So even from the unity part, you know, I've written about something before about how, you know, there's the phenomenon about the Stellenbosch Mafia. In the Stellenbosch Mafia, I stand to be corrected, but more often than not, what they did was to share opportunities, not do the individual thing. It's got short legs. Share opportunities, collaborate. That's where, you know, the gem for me, or the proof in the pudding is.
I guess for me, from what I'm taking from this, is that we need to be able to have candid discussions about such issues. And the reason why I gravitated towards the line of questioning that I did, it was because at the heart of what you do, you've been able to acquire expertise beyond measure. And there has to be an environment that gives you that space. You're going far. May I tell you? Because at the core of your existence is bettering another. Your business, when you unpack it, it's about the betterment of a seed. Whether I consume it or I don't. Your company,
Batanidza Technologies, Batanidza. Yeah.
You're competing in the space.
Yeah.
You spoke about you having to start from the beginning. I'm a consumer.
Yeah.
The last parting shot that you will say to me.
Yeah.
For me to be able to understand you.
Yeah.
And understand what you stand for.
Yeah.
What would it be?
I think for our people, by our people, right? I look at not only from the technical side of the IT sector, but the opportunities that we find ourselves in front of, and as an opportunity to contribute to, who they touch, who benefits the most. I mean, you know, Forum for the Marginalised, think about it. That's what we are in essence all about. So when I say for our people, by our people, I mean we are capable, we have the capacity to deliver, and lo and behold, we've got the right price points to deliver. Therefore, for me, fundamentally, as an individual, next to the company, it's me driving around seeing our people queuing for transport in, you know, all sorts of different weather, and thinking, how in my day-to-day am I going to contribute to a fraction of them being able not to take away from, you know, those that make money from that, but for them to be better, for them to live a better life. Ugogo Mahlangu, circling back to her, she gets to the ATM to withdraw 100 rands because Melanie gets a Mankopos next door. But she used 50 rands to go there. And also she's using 50 rands to come back. So her
sometimes you should see, but you know.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
man.
that's what it is for us. It's multi-layered. It's truly and honestly multi-layered. We will make it step by step, whenever that will be. We will contribute to a different South Africa. And by the way, we take on all South Africans. And I think I will one day stand with pride on a pedestal and say South Africans. When I say for our people, by our people, yes, I'm black. Yes, I advocate for black. But I mean South Africans, that the core of them want a better South Africa. For our people, by our people, is coining that for all South Africans that want a better South Africa.
One of the most influential people, business and entrepreneur in Africa, Dr. Oscar Molaba. What a conversation.
Thank you.
I am, in fact, as a family, we're very honored that you took your time to sit and have an engagement. We are hoping that we'll be able to unpack this world. Because I think we've touched into... Yeah, it's nice to humanize business, isn't it? Isn't it?
It is.
Yes.
And you even got a tear or two from me.
But that's exactly it. It is nice to humanize business. And for that, I would like to thank you. Family, we're going to be seeing him quite often. Simply because I think, can we not look at the technical part of business in isolation of people? Because you need a person to do business with.
Yeah.
So we are going to have such engagements. Now we're going to be unpacking properly in terms of the service offering. But I think for the fact that we're able to sort of give you a glimpse of what he does, it's a beginning. Dr. Oscar, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. In parting, please do come to my page, Oscar Molaba, on LinkedIn, or our LinkedIn page, Batanidza Technologies. You'll find all of this being put into perspective, and I look forward to our future engagements to unpack all of that further, and how you also throw me a curveball or two every now and again. I enjoy that very well. Thank you so much for having me, Cindy.
Thank you. Family, what a conversation. Thank you once again. Don't forget, click, share, like. Appreciate you, love you. Your support means a lot to all of us. From the Forum of the Marginalized,